This is Rene Enriquez. Nickname Black Hand of the Mexican Mafia. Prison gang politics.
Hey folks, my name is Rene Enriquez and you're watching Uncensored. If you remember at the closing of our last video, Wedo Shah was talking about the guys at the Bay, and they're talking about taking care of those guys and not overwhelming themselves. This video has gotten pretty interesting because they're solely driven on business, right? Establishing a business, establishing a committee. They discussed creating a commission. And Victoria Borillo pointed out something really astute. He pointed out that before they do all that, they should capitalize on what they have now, which is their major successes. That's the cultivation of the gang subculture in Los Angeles and California. Victoria saw that as a pot of gold, and it is. It is today. So we're going to continue with this video, and let's see where they take off with it. They were talking about the brothers at the Bay and taking care of them when we left off last night.
No, at the end of the month you should send it to them. So by the first of the month they can have it.
Okay, well we can pick a certain day for us to say, well, you know what, I pick a brother and say I did this, every once a month. And you don't have to, because it's got to come from your heart, But it'd be good,
Well, it comes from man, believe me, brother. I know what it's like up there, man. You know what it's like. But what I'm saying is we can't overextend ourselves either. Like, we're going to do something for our benefit out here, so we have to keep some for the carnales in there también. But like you know what I did is I sent the carnales and the feds, well in Lampak anyway, some drogas. I sent them some drogas and I told them to send me some recap money back out, and I'll recap and I'll keep it going. That way they can take care of themselves, But in Pelican Bay, what I did, this is what I did with Lalo. He sent me a vato, one of his homies, Freddy.
You say Chino.
Chino, his name's Freddy, they call him Chino. Anyway, he sent it to me. What I did, I gave him some drogas, and I said, look, this is Lalo, you're dealing for Lalo. I'm giving you this shit, but all I want back is the recap money. Or you can recap from somebody else, whatever you want to do. So what he did is he took the shit and ran with it.
Who's this?
Chino from Loma. And something named Freddy. Well, anyway, Lalo sent it to me. So I said, all right, So I gave him the drogas, and I said, look, the money, the profit goes to Lalo. Just give me the recap money, unless you want to recap on your own. It don't make no difference. But here it is. This motherfucker took off the split. He ran with this shit. But that's just another idea of what you can do to help somebody out. If you can find somebody reliable, give them a clavo to sell for the vato, or maybe, and then, or like maybe in that section, that guy can take care of the other ones that are there, but you have to find somebody you can trust.
Watch out, but okay, just this, okay. What you did, it came from your heart, and it's good. What the guy did is wrong, okay. Now the only thing that I see is this, okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Nobody does nothing for anything.
No.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I was paying him, bro.
Oh, okay.
He was getting. I said the profits was to go to Lalo. I didn't want any money back. He was getting paid. In other words, the profit was to, he was getting his profit, right? In other words, like I said here, you need so much for recop, so much for you, the rest goes to Lalo.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't ask him to sell nothing for nothing. Yeah, I know better than that, No, he was getting paid, brother. But he just ran with the whole thing, fucked it off. But the reason I brought it up is I said because
that's an idea.
That's an idea that, but then when the ones that we can't do that with, then we'll just send the money. But like I said, what I did, I backed off for about a month because I was trying to get in touch with the carnales families, somebody who was reliable, because there's some family that if you give the carnala some fed and say, here, this goes to so and so.
They're gonna go to the next
or when man, the baby needed diapers and all that.
And that has happened.
It always happened a lot. Like one time I give Danny Boy's half $200 for a TV. and it wasn't my thing. It
Chico's
was,
brother burned us my loan for fucking $1,500.
see, so,
Then he was
so I
charging
don't
his
know.
my loan, huh?
Then he was trying to charge my
Somebody says
loan.
my loan's out.
No,
He
he
got
got
busted.
back in within 2 days.
So we have to do it in a way where it's not gonna break, cause I was sending the shit, the money orders up there under my name, and now what I see
Yeah, I got two letters sent back. I sent Rene Enriquez the money and they sent them back to me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Because
Third party ball.
you know, I didn't use my name either. They just said that there was somebody that was from they felt there was somebody from another institution.
Oh, is that right?
That's the excuse they gave, and they sent it back. And then I said something through another way, and it got through. I got, apenas salí, so what little I got,
You know what?
hey, but
That's
it's-
I went to
something that
Staples.
the
I went to
brothers don't
Staples.
see too, you know.
I went to
These
Staples
guys
and
are
got
making it harder for us to
I
get
think
in
was
touch
like
with them to send
So,
them
Yeah.
shit.
office supply.
And for $21, you could
I
get
mean, it's not such a
a
big
printout
thing.
that you can make
Still, listen.
a stamp of any name.
yeah.
And all you gotta do is just make attorney-client privilege, stamp it, and put it any attorney that you find in the phone book, booyah, and send it, type it up, and send it in there.
Okay, but
That used to be the case. What Chico just said right now was a common method to circumvent institutional security. We would get an attorney's name, send a legal packet in of transcripts, a bunch of papers, and within that transcripts, we'd secrete drugs, right? Or we'd include the message that we wanted to relay to the Mexican Mafia members, typically on the letterhead of the specific attorney that we picked. And it was sometimes just, phone book roulette. Oh, Jones and Jones out of Beverly Hills, right? And they're an attorney, so we'd put that on the stamp and attorney-client privilege and information and send that in and get right through. Because there is in the California Administrative Code a protection on privileged information, right? Prevents the CDC from opening and searching the piece of correspondence outside of the presence of the inmate, right? Those letters have to be opened and a cursory examination only take place, which means they shake the transcripts or they thumb through them and that's it. That's about as stringent a look that those pieces of correspondence had in the past. Now, however, due to the abuses and the prolific use of legal mail to circumvent institutional procedures and introduce contraband to the institution, now they verify. There's a verification method that's been established by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, particularly for legal correspondence going into what were the shoes. They're not even the shoe anymore. It's called the RHU, the Restricted Housing Unit. So that is pretty much a done deal. It's used sometimes with legitimate attorneys who are crooked, and they circumvent that process. But it's a kind of a thing of the past.
Well, yeah, or that,
okay, what do we do? Everybody's want to make an attempt. We already made an agreement on the kitty. Next week we're going to start putting into it. Okay, now what about taking care of the carnales? I got Black Bob and the vatos in Lampa should be taken care of because I sent them 4.5 grams, and you know how much you can make off 4.5 grams in the pinta. So they're taken care of. All them brothers are up there in that new place in Colorado now, Florence. They're hurting, man. So I sent somebody to Ruben. That's just one. They got one carnal in each section. They got them all separated. There's one carnal in each section. They're not like 3 or 4 in a section or nothing like that. So we have to take care of each one. Then we got all the carnales in Pelican Bay. So what? Do we divide up names or?
It doesn't gotta be, every month, or somebody, we can switch the people around, like say this month do this, next month do so and so, but the thing is, man, is to let them know it's not like what they think.
Let them get something.
As far as sending, you're talking about sending feria into the pintas?
Yeah.
How does this sound? Everybody tiene un camarada, en la pinta. Why don't they just, everybody has a camarada, take care of his camarada? What do you mean? You know, like I've been sending the newspaper and Feria to Rube, for 6 years. Como quieran hacerla, yo no sé, yo nomás digo que...
I just need eight names. Just give me 8 names. That's all I need.
What are we talking?
No, I was just saying, is that the way you want to do it?
I'll take 8.
You know what?
Or you mean like if you got a paper that not send him some money?
No, I was just saying that if we're talking about taking the carnales in there, I mean, we all know somebody in there.
He's talking about taking care of carnales that are your personal
That
friend.
you know, that
That
you
you
run
know.
with.
Because usually, I mean, si Perico está ahí, él es camarada, yo le mandaba feria a él, y él está en el hoyo, usually they get from his, la conversación.
Oh yeah, well that should be done anyway. No, if you send it to one carnal and there's other, but see, $35.
It's dripping though.
Yeah,
You got a little thing like this, you can send on it through.
And not only that,
If
if there's 2 or 3 carnales in one section, which is rare, but if there is, and they try to, that's trying to split $35, man.
That's what the kitty's for then?
That's the reality. $35 doesn't go too far. It's a very limited amount of money, and you have very limited items. You can get popcorn, top ramen soups. You can get cookies. You can get some candy, coffee, and a couple of cosmetic items. And remember, everything's taken out of its packet. Its original package is removed. They give it to you in paper bags and Dixie cups. This was the rule of the shoe. So it's kind of hard to spread $35 among multiple members. It just really is. It really is hard to take care of that many members, right? So I know this. Wedo Shy, Black Den, and a couple other brothers would regularly go see my mom and drop her off substances and money. They took care of me really well, and they allowed my crew to flourish. My crew never encountered difficulties, and if they did, they'd go to them and they'd resolve it for them. So they took care of me really well, but I was their personal friend. Just like Victor Murillo got up and says, if you have a camarada, take care of him, like he took care of Rube Soto for the past 6 years. Send up the newspaper and made sure he got commissary money every time he went. And this is really what this meeting is about. Because the guys at the Bay, I'd heard these guys are driving around in Cadillacs and Mercedes-Benzes, and that wasn't reality. There were a couple brothers that were doing really well, but not every brother. And it gave the misconception to the guys at the Bay, the politicers particularly, and this is the guys who started this stuff. Angel Valencia, Cuate Grajeda, Tablas Castellanos, Babo, those guys, they thought that these cartels were keeping everything to themselves, right? And here they are trying to establish a method by which they could share some of that wealth. And I gotta say, for me, I never received a money order in the mail. Never. Not from them. Not from the Mexican Mafia members. But they did take care of my family.
No, the kitty.
We're gonna make a bank. We're gonna make a bank for the.
The carnales up there taking care of them is just something we can do as individuals. But we don't want 3 carnales sending the same carnal money.
Yeah.
That's why I suggested that we each one have a list, and we did have one. Like the money I've been sending, I send it to the same carnales all the time.
And instead of having a designated list, we can write the name who you want
And
to
like
send. You can pick whoever you want.
I just sent Danny Boy $40, and then this morning I found out that the Pelon sending money too. Where one of us could have sent money to somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, somebody make out that list, and then every time we come, we can pick.
Next week.
How about next Sunday when we come, everybody have a list of vatos that they want to send
But
something
you know
to?
what, even for instance, like I sent Chino, I've been sending drogas up there to Topo, Psycho, and Boxer, and all them that are in Topo section. And I sent it to Chino from neighborhood, and he gives it to him in the next section. See, I sent them drogas because when I was there with him, I even asked the brother, but they said they don't need nothing. They said just trying to get some drogas in there. And I usually, every time I cop, I break it up. I show them boy who, and I send them the thing. We got about 3-4 gramos a month. You know what I mean? If sometimes it makes, sometimes it doesn't. You know what I mean? Because I give return.
That individual speaking there is Perico Rocha from Norwalk, not to be confused with Perico Ochoa. And the brothers did send us drugs. That's one of the main pastimes there in the shoe, is getting what we call getting grabo, right? We get it in packages, we get it in mail, we get it in happy cards. And brothers did. make it available to us. And Topo particularly, Benjamin Peters, my co-defendant, was a fiend for dope. That's all he cared about, was getting dope in. You know what? I wanted to say something as well. We hit 30,000 subscribers. I want to congratulate you guys for building this channel, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Actually, we're almost at 32,000 subscribers, right? And we hit 1 million views this month alone. And it wouldn't have been possible without each of you, right? Each of you have contributed to this channel by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button. But there's a differentiation here in numbers, right? 1 million views and only 32,000 subscribers. Come on, let's bump it up, folks. Let's bump up those subscriptions. Get me to 40,000. Get me there. Let's build this channel. Let's finish off this video. And I'm going to begin it now.
The senders, you know, sometimes, but
Well, if you're sending them vatos and they don't want money, they want drogas, and you're...
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, because there's like
Because
four
I said-
carnales in that section in there where there's Güero Sherman, and there's 3 carnales in there, and I sent them, and they're all took care of right there in that section. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I sent to Lalo, I sent him and termite, drogas, and feria. Termites Carnala has a way to fix them up fix the carga up in a manila envelope. And I was sitting in there like that.
You don't know how much exactly. Okay. I forgot to put that out.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, you know, some carnales, you know, they just...
Still an hour behind.
Yeah.
So you heard Watershai talk about sending drugs in, and that specific member, Termite from East Los, he was murdered immediately after he was paroled. I remember that individual. I actually forewarned him that was impending doom, but he didn't want to listen. Sometimes these guys don't want to listen, unfortunately. And that's the sad reality of most of these videos. You're seeing them, a lot of these guys aren't here anymore. You know, they're deceased. And that's the way of the business here. That's the way of it's the nature of the beast. With that said, folks, we're going to end this video. Peace out. Have a great day. Stay safe.